It's been a long Monday. Education's struggling with none, justice advocates are alarmed by none, and most people don't even understand what they're dealing with. But tomorrow morning, practitioners across every industry still need to know what actually works when you try to implement these AI tools. I've been digging through implementation data all week, and the pattern is brutally clear. Simple tools are crushing complex systems.
Because complex systems require complex infrastructure that most organizations simply don't have. I just wrapped up a consultation with a mid-sized healthcare clinic that burned through $47,000 trying to implement an enterprise AI solution when a $20 per month ChatGPT Plus subscription would have solved 80% of their actual problems.
That mirrors exactly what we're seeing in medical implementations. Everyone wants the sophisticated diagnostic AI that requires 6 months of integration, dedicated IT staff, and regulatory approvals. Meanwhile, the docs using Claude for patient notes and treatment summaries are actually improving their workflow today.
Same in creative work. I watched an agency spend 3 months evaluating enterprise creative AI platforms, while freelancers with Midjourney subscriptions were already landing their clients.
Let's get specific about these implementation realities. Sophie, you mentioned freelancers. What's your actual workflow look like?
Tuesday morning reality, I wake up. Client needs 5 concept variations for a campaign by noon. Pre-AI, that's 2 days minimum. Now I spend 20 minutes in Midjourney getting base concepts, another hour in Photoshop with generative fill cleaning them up, and I'm presenting polished options before lunch. Total tool cost, $30 for Midjourney, $20 for Photoshop. That's it.
But here's where organizations fail. They think they can just hand their team those same tools and replicate your results. What they miss is the 3 months you spent learning prompt engineering, the workflows you developed, the
complete restructuring of how I think about creative work. That's the infrastructure gap nobody talks about. It's not IT infrastructure, it's cognitive infrastructure.
Exactly. We implemented a diagnostic assistance tool in our radiology department. The vendor promised seamless integration. 6 months later, we'd spent $120,000 on the license, another $80,000 on integration, and our radiologists were still printing out AI suggestions to manually enter them into our system.
$200,000 for a print and retype workflow.
Welcome to healthcare IT. But here's the kicker. One of our residents started using Claude to pre-write radiology reports. Costs nothing beyond the subscription, saves her 2 hours per shift, and the attending physicians actually prefer her reports now because they're more structured.
This is the pattern I see everywhere. The successful implementations aren't the ones with the biggest budgets or the most sophisticated tools. They're the ones that start small, prove value, then scale. But organizations are addicted to the big transformation narrative.
Let's talk real numbers. What does start small actually cost?
For a creative team, budget $200 per person per month. That gets you ChatGPT Plus, Midjourney, and maybe 11 labs for voice work. More importantly, budget 3 hours per week for the first month for experimentation time. Not training, experimentation.
Medical's trickier because of compliance, but even there, we're seeing success with $50 to $100 per provider per month for secure versions of general-purpose tools. The real cost is the 10 to 15 hours of workflow redesign per department.
And that's where organizations balk. They'll happily write a check for $100,000 in software licenses, but ask them to give their team 10 hours of experimentation time? Suddenly, that's impossible.
You mentioned workflow redesign. What does that actually look like on the ground?
Take patient intake. Traditional workflow, patient fills out paper forms, staff manually enters data, doctor reviews an EMR, makes notes, staff transcribes to final report. New workflow, patient speaks symptoms to AI voice interface, AI generates structured intake, doctor reviews and edits AI-generated assessment, done. Sounds simple, but we had to redesign 7 different handoff points.
Creative's even more dramatic. Old workflow. Brief comes in, brainstorm meeting, initial sketches, client feedback, revisions, final delivery. New workflow. Brief comes in, AI generates 20 concepts in 20 minutes, human curates to 5, enhances the best ones, client feedback on near final work, done. We've essentially eliminated the entire exploratory phase.
which terrifies people. I was working with a design agency where the creative directors actively sabotaged the AI implementation because it threatened their ideation expertise. They'd built entire careers on being the idea people.
How'd you handle that?
Honestly, I didn't. They needed to fail first. 3 months later, they lost 2 major clients to competitors using AI-assisted workflows who could deliver in half the time. Suddenly, everyone wanted training.
That's brutal, but real. I know photographers who spent years perfecting technical skills that Midjourney can replicate in seconds. The ones surviving are those who shifted from I'm great at lighting to I'm great at visual storytelling.
We're seeing the same identity crisis in medicine. Doctors who define themselves by diagnostic accuracy are struggling when an AI can spot patterns they'd miss, but the ones thriving, they're using AI to spend more time actually talking to patients.
Let's get into the failure stories. What implementations have you seen completely crater?
Oh, where do I start? Fortune 500 company hired me after spending $2.3 million on a comprehensive AI transformation. Want to know what they got? A chatbot that could answer HR questions slightly worse than their existing FAQ page.
2.3 million.
Implementation team of 12 consultants for 8 months, enterprise software license, custom training on their data, integration with 7 different systems. The chatbot worked perfectly. It just solved a problem nobody actually had.
We had a similar disaster with an AI scheduling system. $450,000 to implement, promised to optimize patient flow. It optimized so well that it started booking 15-minute slots for procedures that take 45 minutes. Took us 3 weeks to notice because the AI kept insisting its math was correct.
I watched an agency blow $75,000 on an AI creative director platform. It generated briefs based on market data. Brilliant in theory, except every brief read like it was written by someone who'd never actually worked with a creative team. They scrapped it after 2 months.
What's the common thread in these failures?
Solving problems that don't exist with tools that don't integrate with workflows designed by people who don't do the actual work. Every single time.
Plus the vendor promises. Our AI will transform your practice. No, your AI will generate text. What I do with that text determines if my practice transforms.
The successful implementations I've seen all started with someone going rogue. Designer stays late, tries Midjourney on a real project, shows the creative director the next morning. That's how change actually happens.
Speaking of going rogue, what are the tools people are actually using successfully?
In creative, ChatGPT and Claude for copy, Midjourney and Stable Diffusion for visuals, 11 Labs for voice, Runway for video. Total monthly cost for the whole stack, maybe $150. Compare that to a single Adobe Enterprise license.
Medical's more conservative, but Claude for documentation, ChatGPT for patient education materials, and specific tools like Glass AI for diagnostic support. We're talking $200 to $300 per month per physician for massive efficiency gains.
The pattern holds across industries, sales teams using ChatGPT for email drafts, legal teams using Claude for contract review, financial analysts using GPT-4 for report generation. All simple tools, all under $50 per user per month.
But what about the integration challenge? These are all separate tools.
That's the beauty. They don't need to integrate. I copy-paste between them all day. Takes 5 seconds. An enterprise integration would take 5 months and still probably break.
We spent 6 months trying to integrate an AI tool with our EMR. Know what works better? Having the AI open in a browser tab. Revolutionary, I know.
This drives IT departments crazy. They want unified platforms, single sign-on, centralized control. Meanwhile, users just want tools that work.
Let's talk about team resistance. How do you get buy-in when people feel threatened?
You don't convince anyone of anything. You find the early adopters, usually younger staff drowning in mundane tasks, and you give them permission to experiment. Success stories spread faster than any training program.
I started using AI because I was burned out on revisions. 8th round of changes on a logo? Let AI generate variations while I grab coffee. My boss only cared when I started delivering finals in half the time.
We had one resident using AI for discharge summaries. Other residents mocked her for cheating. Then she finished her paperwork 2 hours before everyone else every shift. Guess who's asking for tutorials now?
What about quality concerns? The AI makes everything generic argument.
Valid if you use AI wrong. If you prompt "make me a logo," you get generic garbage. If you prompt with specific brand values, aesthetic references, and technical requirements, then iterate and refine, you get a sophisticated starting point.
Same in medicine. AI-generated patient notes can be robotic. But AI-assisted notes where the doctor adds clinical judgment and personal observations, often better than traditionally written ones because the structure is consistent.
The quality argument usually comes from people who haven't actually tried the tools, or they tried once, got mediocre results, and declared the whole technology useless.
What metrics actually matter for measuring implementation success?
Time saved is obvious but misleading. I've seen teams save 3 hours per day but fill that time with busy work. Better metrics: throughput increase, revision cycles reduced, employee satisfaction scores.
In healthcare, we track documentation time, but more importantly, patient interaction time. If AI saves you an hour of charting, but you don't spend that hour with patients, what's the point?
Project turnaround time and client revision requests. Since implementing AI, my average project time dropped 40%, but more importantly, client satisfaction went up because I can explore more options up front.
For someone listening who needs to start implementation tomorrow, what's the playbook?
Pick one painful, repetitive task. Find someone who hates doing it. Give them a $20 ChatGPT subscription and 2 hours to experiment. Don't mention AI transformation or digital strategy. Just solve one specific problem.
And expect the first week to be slower. You're learning a new instrument. But week 2, that's when the magic happens.
Also, start with non-critical workflows. Don't AI assist your surgery notes on day 1. Start with patient education handouts or appointment reminders. Build confidence with low stakes.
What about the build versus buy question? When does custom development make sense?
Almost never for most organizations. I've seen too many companies convince themselves they're special snowflakes who need custom solutions. Unless you're processing truly unique data at massive scale, off-the-shelf tools will cover 90% of your needs.
We wasted months debating building versus buying. Meanwhile, individual doctors were already getting results with consumer tools. Perfect is the enemy of good enough.
The only custom development that makes sense is workflow connectors, little scripts that move data between tools. But even there, Zapier or Make.com usually suffice.
How do you handle the security and privacy concerns, especially in regulated industries?
Enterprise versions of consumer tools. ChatGPT Enterprise, Claude for Business. Yes, they cost more, maybe $30 to $60 per user versus $20. But they include the compliance features you need without the integration nightmares of traditional enterprise software.
The security argument often masks fear of change. I've seen IT departments spend months on security reviews for AI tools while ignoring that half their staff emails sensitive documents to personal Gmail accounts.
Final thoughts. What would you tell someone who's been tasked with AI implementation and has no idea where to start?
Start using the tools yourself. Today. Don't strategize, don't plan, just pick a task and try to automate it. You can't lead implementation of tools you don't understand.
And expect resistance, but not where you think. It won't be the older staff who struggle. They're used to learning new systems. It's the middle performers who've gotten comfortable with current workflows.
Most importantly, ignore the hype. You're not transforming anything. You're giving people power tools. Some will build amazing things. Others will cut off their fingers. Your job is to minimize the latter while enabling the former.
The pattern's clear from today's discussion. Successful AI implementation isn't about grand strategies or massive budgets. It's about solving specific problems with simple tools, starting small, and letting success build organically. Tomorrow morning, while consultants pitch transformation strategies, practitioners need to just pick a problem and start solving it. The infrastructure you need isn't technological, it's the permission to experiment and fail. And at 20 to 50 per person per month, failure's pretty cheap compared to the alternative of falling behind. The question isn't whether to implement AI anymore. It's whether you'll do it smart and simple or expensive and complex. Based on today's evidence, that choice should be obvious.